So strap in and get ready.
The leaders in AFL SuperCoach are incoming, helping you win your leagues and climb up the rankings.
You're now listening to the Insight AFL Show with your hosts, Big Horse and Skinny.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Insight AFL podcast. I am the Horse, and joining me this evening is probably Campbell Chess's number one fan, Deadly. How you doing, mate?
Doing great, mate. Doing great. This is the show that people have been asking for. Bugger me, bugger Skitty, bugger Hurls. Everyone's been asking for your team, and they could finally get it today, and I'm here to critique it.
Yes, exactly right, mate. So we are going to be revealing the horses for courses for 2025, well, the first episode anyway. This will be the only time that I'll be releasing my team or revealing my team to the public. The rest of the tweaks, the research, the numbers that you and I and the others do will all be inside our Patreon. The link will be in the description below. It is free to join, so you can jump in there and get all good things AFL SuperCoach. But for those of you that were in the Discord last year, you know that there's a bit of a running joke that Campbell Chess is perhaps the best AFL footballer there is in the AFL. And Deadly, for those of you listening on all audio platforms, he's got him as his backdrop here. So for those on YouTube, I apologise. We're going to have to stare at his mug for the best part of half an hour, but we'll try and get through this as quick as we can. Anything you want to say before we kick off, Deadly?
Don't know what you're apologising for. It's the prettiest face in AFL history, so you know.
For those of you that are in our Discord and were part of the Inside Fantasy Sports Network last year, there were two names that they didn't so much get to me, but there was just something about them I didn't like. There was Campbell Chesser and there's Ben Keys.
He's the background next time I'm on.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's because Deadly and I put a couple of wager bets on and I lost each time because he just found ways to kick goals. So anyway, we're going to continue on. Tonight's episode, ladies and gentlemen, is brought to you by the Standard Squeeze, who are helping you drink responsibly and conveniently. You can go to the website, thestandardsqueeze.com, and use the code IFS15 to get yourself 15% off everything in store. Bloody ripper products. Deadly, you've got the 4-in-1, mate. You've got the bottles. Use them frequently?
Yeah, I use the 4-in-1 most times. I drink alone in my bedroom because I'm a sad little soul.
Friendship. Friendship. Well, anyway, the horses for courses, we're starting. So a lot like other teams, I am going with a two primo start in my backline. So we're starting with Harry Sheasel, Jack Sinclair, Kitty Coleman. We'll get into him in a little bit. And then I'm going pretty rookie heavy in my backline. So Toby Travaglia, Bo Allen, James Leake, Saad El Hawley, and Zach Reed. Any questions you want to ask, mate, before we get into explaining why we've picked these players in the spots?
No questions. Let's just have a chat about them.
Right, so for me, I think it's pretty clear cut that Harry Sheasel is going to be at the pointy end when we're talking D1, D2s at the end of the year. If you don't get him in early, it's going to be the same with Bont, Cherry, those sorts of players that you're going to have to get them in at some stage. And if you just have them in from the start, then you're just locked and loaded and you're good. You don't have to worry about finding the excess funds throughout the year to try and get them in.
Yep.
So Sheasel from year one to year two, year one averaged 99.5 playing across half black. We know how the Kangaroos like to chip the ball around across half back. We're going to get into one of their plays that's in my forward line later in the episode. But Sheasel, upon his move into the middle and then into the forward line, went up 18 SuperCoach points per game. So the ball was harder to find for him, but yet he excelled after a couple of week lull there. And I feel like with the amount of time he's going to spend in the middle, plus his silky skills, plus his ability to find the ball, plus his ability to hit the scoreboard, it's a pretty decent D1, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. He goes at 1.1 ppm and he's extremely efficient, 77% efficiency every time he touches the ball and gets rid of it. North have a pretty decent bye as well, round 12. They're not opening round affected, so you don't have to worry about that with Sheasel. And in the 13 games from when he switched from the backline to those mids and forwards, he averaged 117.8 which probably fourth highest average for the season. And yeah, even in the mids, he's yet to be tagged, which is actually surprised me a bit. Teams prefer to tag LDU over him, but maybe that changes. But still, yet to be tagged, and he scores so well so quickly that he's probably one of the locks for D1.
Yeah, I think so, mate. You hit the nail on the head. And you speaking about the tagger role that is in the AFL, I know you've been working pretty hard behind the scenes on a tagger spreadsheet. It nominates every player that's been tagged, who they've been tagged by, their score, when they were tagged by a specific player versus when they're not tagged against each and every team. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to be in our Patreon in a couple of weeks' time. You're not going to want to miss that. Jack Sinclair is my D2. The dual position status is one big tick. The next big tick, no early buy. The next big tick, round 13 buy. So there's only St Kilda and Fremantle on that buy. The fact that the Saints have picked up McRae and McRae's going to be playing midfield, we've seen by practice matches. I was a little sceptical when they picked him up because I, for one, think that St Kilda need more speed, a little bit more outside pace at the contest. But with the way that he's being used at St Kilda, especially during match sim already, for me, he's going to get back to his piggy best. So you got the likes of Steele, Philippou, McRae, that'll all be first choice midfielders. That's going to push Jack Sinclair back into his more favoured half-back role where he excels.
Yeah, absolutely. You're right. And we know when you're down back, you're more likely to take kick-ins. And when Jack McRae takes kick-ins, he plays on it 95% of the time, which
he does.
It's just absolutely gold for SuperCoach. And
If
the last...
Yeah,
go on.
If he plays on, kicks long, and it's deemed as an effective kick, that's a +8, isn't it?
Yeah, +8. Yep. That's just what you want. And if he's getting that, 8 times a game, that's almost
an
100
easy
just
64
in that.
points. Yep.
Yeah.
That's unreal.
Yep.
Kitty Coleman, for me, coming back from injury, I don't want to carry too many early buy players, but I feel like Kitty Coleman's one that we can't really afford to pass up on. I've chosen Kitty Coleman over a player like Callum Mills because if we take last year out of the equation, he got hurt early on. The last game he played was against Collingwood in that grand final, and he had almost 100 SuperCoach points at halftime and ended up just over 140 SuperCoach points in that game. He was bloody unreal. So for me, Dane Zorko was the man last year. They looked to get the ball in Zorks' hands a lot. Kitty Coleman, for me, just goes into that role. Zorko's, 36 years old now? He's not going to be able to do that forever, and they value his ability to use the ball forward of centre. So I feel like Kitty's going to go back into that role down back and start accumulating the ball, and he uses the ball well as well.
Yeah, absolutely. If Kitty didn't get injured, Zorko's big scores would have probably been Kitty last year. Everyone was going to start with Kitty last year at 400k, whatever he was.
That's right.
And now he's 269. It's just you can't not have him, I feel. At the price.
With my rookies, we're going to do a special rookie episode in the coming weeks. Pardon me, here on the Insight Network, but I'll quickly go through them. Toby Travaglia, Bendigo lad. I've followed him pretty closely over the past couple of years with the Pioneers. And look, there's no other word to say but unreal. He could play forward. He could play back. He's being trolled on a wing at the moment, which I don't mind because he's got a huge tank and he's quite tall. So I feel like he could be that mismatch that the Saints could go through on the wing. Uses the ball pretty well as well. Am I expecting 80s and 90s every week? No. But you know what? If he makes me 200 to 250K, which then allows me to go into a stepping stone of a primo down back, happy days. And he's got that DPP as well as Bo Allen, deadly. West Coast did really well to trade back in the draft and still get him at 14.
Yeah, absolutely. Pick whatever it was. I think it was 2, and still got him. And they used that pick to get probably one of the better pickups in the whole offseason, Liam Baker. So they've just made their team instantly better to surround him with Campbell Chesser just by getting one pick and trading it. Bo Allen's gonna he's gonna play pretty early on, you'd think, considering how high they were on him.
Why am I not surprised Campbell Chess has made an appearance on this show more than once?
If you scroll down to your midfielders and Campbell Chester isn't there, we're gonna have arguments.
All right, well, get your argument ready because he hasn't touched my team. Mate, James Leake is at D6. You've got some numbers there. For me, I know why I'm picking him, but do you mind reeling him off what he's done in the VFL the back end of last year?
Yeah, I wasn't really interested in James Leake myself, but then I sort of had a bit of a look into him after you had a chat about him. He played 8 games in the VFL towards the back end of last year, and he averaged 108.7 SuperCoach points in those last 8 games, and he was averaging about 25 something touches a game down back for GWS in the VFL, including a almost 40 touch game one of them times. So yeah, he's impressive, and if he can break, he's got points on offer.
Yep, I think there's a very realistic chance and opportunity there for Leake to break into the GWS backline. We know what they're like. They like to bring in youth to mix in with their experience. They've got the likes of Iden down there. They've got Whitfield, who's a known ball user. Buckley will be one of their major bigs. They probably just need another ball user down there. Nick Haynes is now out of the side and he's at Carlton. So a definite opportunity there. For my bench, Sardell Hawley and Zach Reid, I'm ready to be heard again by Zach Reid. There is no other big man that uses the ball as well as him. That's not me being biased as an Essendon supporter, but you'd agree, both feet, he's just unreal.
Yeah, there's not many that do it at his size. Maybe the only one that could compete is like Dan Curtin because he's 2 meters tall and he uses it excellently. But still, Zach Reid, if he can get his body right, you can't knock the pick. He's going to make some good coin, you'd think. And he's one of the main men down back for Essendon. He's in the best 23 on most weeks.
For sure. And Sardell Hawley, he would have played last year if he didn't get hurt. I just think he's an absolute lock and will play this year. Essendon need that dare. They need that dash and they need that outside run. The likes of El Hawley, the likes of Kako, it's not going to be premiership years for Essendon this year, but I feel like the excitement factor of watching the Essendon Footy Club, if you're a supporter of them, is going to increase this year by this young, youthful sort of excitement that's coming in. Both Kako and El Hawley like to take the game on. They run and bounce. They love a chase down tackle. They use the ball well. It's exciting times.
Absolutely.
Let's move on to our midfield. So what we're going to do is, I guess we can talk about the Bont pretty quickly. 129, 126 he's averaged over the past 2 years. Easily the best Supercoach player alongside Cherry last year. He's just a lock and load, mate.
Yeah, silly not to pick him at the price. Even 750k, you'd probably still lock him in because he's got that 180 in him every season. You don't want to be the guy who doesn't have him when he has it. Every
season. Yep. He's gone over 180 in each of his last 3 seasons too. Yep. So you don't want to be a non-owner when he goes pop. It puts you straight on the back foot. Brayshaw for me, I'm definitely picking a Fremantle mid, and I really like the way that he finished last year. He started last year with a bit of I think it was an ingrown toe, wasn't it, or a toe injury?
Yes,
and,
it was,
he was really struggling, and then once he got right, he really went nuts at the back end of the year. And for me, I think Fremantle are going to be the big improvers this year, and they'll be at the pointy end this year. So, Brayshaw for me, I think he's underpriced at 590k. I think he's got that mid-650s in him to get to and stay around for the year alongside Sarong. It's just a matter of him and Sarong probably going to score similar. I saved 30k by going Brayshaw. So,
I agree with that. Sarong's probably every tagger would go straight to Sarong. They won't even look at Brayshaw most of the time. And, the start of last season for Brayshaw with the ingrown toe means he can't run as well, and that's his biggest thing, the run straight out the midfield.
Yeah, the tank.
Kick inside 50. Yeah, the tank. You can't do it if you haven't, your foot's not right. But, I think he's also underpriced at 591. I think you might see a little bit of an increase, but, he'll be one you can have for the rest of the season at that price. It's probably, the only one around that price point that will stay around the top 8 mids.
For those of you on audio, I've gone 3 mid prices in my midfield and then 3 rookies to round out my 8 on field. The 3 mid prices I've got at the moment are Clayton Oliver, Adam Chera, and James Peatling. Clayton Oliver looks, pardon my language, but fucking fit at the moment, doesn't he? It looks like he's got a point to prove.
Yeah, absolutely, and he'll be right in the mix now. If his hands are all good, he'll be back into contest, being his usual bullish best. And Max Gawn, he's just, there's no better ruckman to tap the ball to have the ball tapped from, So Clayton Oliver, he might be primed for another real big season that we'd come accustomed to a few years back.
Yep. Adam Chera is my M4 at the moment. A couple of years ago, he was actually quite good, averaging over 110 for a period of time there in the midfield before hamstring injuries have wrecked his last 18 months. If he can get his body right, there's huge upside, not just in money-making ability, but being able to average his 105, 110 per game.
Yeah, absolutely. With the likes of, Sam Walsh, he's already copped a hamstring to start. Nick Newman's out for the season. They're going to need people to run for that Carlton side, and Chera's one of the better ones. I don't mind the pick, but those hamstring injuries, better than most. They're bloody hard to overcome, and they can come back very easily. I won't be starting him personally, but I'm not going to knock the pick.
Yeah, for me, I'm waiting till the start of pre-season, because if I see Ollie Hollands playing that halfback role at 330K, for those of you that follow me on Twitter, at the SuperCoach Horse on Twitter, if you don't follow, I did put out a post today about Ollie Hollands running off halfback, and he actually finished the year quite well, averaging nearly 100 at the back end of last year, Deadly, with a top score of 116. So I feel like at 330K, that could easily turn into where Chera is now. One, for money-making ability, but two, we could average 90, 95. And if he plays halfback, then we get that DPP. I think it's round 6. The first one comes around.
Yep. First one's round 6, yep.
Yep.
Yeah, Ollie Hollands is a lock for me in my own team now, especially with Newman down. It just, opens a spot for him, and he's been training there. And, he'll be one to make your bulk coin at 333K.
For sure. James Payton's at my M5, those of you on audio and not watching on YouTube. He's got some impressive numbers. Deadly, have you got him there?
Yeah, I do. He's bloody good. So he comes in priced at a 65 average, and that's only because at GWS last year he wore the vest 7 times. Like he probably would average upper 90s if he played full games. In games where he's had 50% plus CBAs, he averages 98. And if you remember back last year when Stephen Coniglio got injured and Peatling basically took Coniglio's role straight away, in those 7 full games when Coniglio was injured, Peatling averaged 104.7. That's almost keeper numbers in a GWS midfield. He should get close to those minutes and that role in Adelaide now, especially with Laird starting to train off halfback a bit more.
Yep. Laird's going to be a point of difference for us when we start talking backliners or people with potential DPP coming early in the season. But I'm going to throw to you. I'm not overly concerned right now, but there would be people who support the Adelaide Footy Club and those that think that they've got the likes of the Crouch Potato, Matty Crouch, Jake Saligo, and then Peatling. They're all inside players.
Yeah.
Whose position do you see him taking? For me, I personally think the Adelaide Footy Club plays a better brand of footy without Crouch.
I would tend to agree. I think Crouch will probably start the year, but they'll just get a couple games and he just sort of stunts their ball usage out the midfield. It's just those simple little handballs, doesn't do anything with it. There's nothing, doesn't provide anything. And, with the likes of Dawson, your Saligos, all these people that are coming in, like a Sid Draper, for example, that might, get a run. Crouch doesn't do much for Adelaide as what Peatling can produce. He can do that and then get a kick away clearance inside 50 and spark their attack.
That's right. Now we're going with rookies for the remainder of my 6 positions through my midfield. So Jager Smith, Ed Allen, Josh Smiley, Nathan O'Driscoll, who I'm very high on this year, Neil Erasmus. And for those of you that are wondering who Hamish Davies is, I don't even know, but I'm going to tell you why I've got him there very shortly. So Jager Smith, however you want to pronounce his name, 194K, has been training off halfback as well when he rotates out of the midfield. There's huge points on offer there, and he's a known accumulator of the footy throughout the TAC, throughout the Coates Talent League, throughout VFL when he played those games with Richmond last year. Yeah. For me, it's just a lock. He's going to play a lot of footy. Ed Allen, Deadly. He scored a 94 playing midfield for Collingwood at the back end of last year. I'm not saying he's going to score 94 every week, but say if he gets his 75 to 80 playing midfield, Collingwood do need youth through their midfield. They've got the aging DeGoey, Pendlebury, side bottom, Tom Mitchell, who's hurt at the moment. For me, and this is just the footy side in me talking, I think he's a very good chance of starting in the midfield rotation in round one.
I think, I'll agree. What interested me was his 94 that he scored right at the last round last year. They had a 5 mid rotation, which had, Dacos, side bottom, all these guys as standard midfielders who weren't injured. And he still pumped out a 94 with all them guys. And, both the Dacos boys got 40 touches each. And he still pumped out a 94. It's good signs that he doesn't need to be the main guy. He can just do his own thing. And, if he pumps out 80s, that's enough money to move him on to a proper primo.
For sure, mate. And then we see the rest of those players that we've got there. Josh Smiley from the Coates League last year, big midfielder at Richmond who I think will play a lot. Nathan O'Driscoll, who is absolutely torching up the track over in Perth or at Fremantle at the moment, and is a near-on certainty to start in the wing position there for Fremantle come round one. Neil Erasmus, huge numbers you brought up on a previous podcast, Dudley, in regards to playing midfield in the Waffle. Averaged over 150 SuperCoach points in the Waffle final series, so over the course of 3 games. Is that right?
Better than that. It's 170.
Wow.
So he won best and fairest for Peel Thunder in the Waffle. He won the Simpson Medal, which is the Waffle's grand final's best on ground.
Mm-hmm.
In the whole Waffle series, he played 17 games and averaged 28 disposals and 7 tackles. And brought up those final scores. He had 167, 172, and then 181 in the Waffle grand final. And all the stuff I've seen about him. The only thing that worries me, obviously, is the vest. Every time he played in the AFL, he's had the vest. But Caleb Sarong has been talking up him like he's the next coming of Christ. To be honest with you, he can't believe how well Neil Erasmus has been and how well his body is. And I think there's a real good chance he can get some game time this year that's not sub-affected.
For sure, mate, for sure. Hamish Davis is there at my 11.
Yep.
I'm going to be just straight to the point with this. I've got no idea who he is. He's not coming up in any West Coast reports as to exceeding expectations on the track or anything like that. But West Coast have 11 of the first 14 games on a Sunday. When we're talking loops, perfect. You can put your loop player on field that's not playing. I can move in between my forward lineman, my midfield, and it gives me my maximum opportunity to go Sheasel for a VC, Bontempelli, Brayshaw, Oliver, Sinclair. You'll see my rucks. You'll see my flex. I've got plenty of captain's options there, but having a West Coast player earlier in the year enables me to be able to almost every round wait as long as I can to get my VC and C options in for the round.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I've just had a look at Hamish Davies' stats in the Waffle. He's actually a pretty impressive footy player. So he started off in the Colts, obviously, which is just, the Waffle, but under 19s. He was averaging about 30-something touches in that as a forward, which ridiculous. And then he went and played a few games for Claremont in the actual Waffle, and he's putting up 15 disposals, couple goals a game. He's somewhat impressive. Probably doesn't break into the West Coast team, to start with the likes of Waterman and all these other tall forwards that they have. But I like him as a loop option. It's very, very well thought out from you.
Surprising, isn't it? Normally I don't come up with smart things, but here we are. And you're smiling, so I'm happy with that. Now, that's my midfield. Our rucks, my rucks this week are going to be brought to you by Lockie Whitfield's personal sponsor, Ryan from Astute Newstead. If you're looking for a new home loan to refinance, all that sort of jazz, or need a bit of extra coin in your pocket, this is the man you need to contact. His link is in the description below. Click on that, use the code INSIGHT, and he will look after you free of charge. Second best mustache that I've seen tonight, actually, on him.
Just quickly, have you ever seen Ryan Hammond and Lachlan Murphy from the Adelaide Football Club in the same room? Because I don't know if it's just me, but they are spitting image.
There's a bit going on there, isn't there?
If you look at that photo there of Ryan, and you look up a photo like Lockie Murphy's media day photo, it's It's almost identical.
Oh,
It's ridiculous.
Lockie Murphy's probably a better bloke. Hopefully you're listening, Ryan. My rucks, I'm just going to keep it pretty simple here because I want to try and keep the podcast to about 35 minutes, knowing that people don't like tuning in and out when they're in a car ride to or from work. They'd like to get the podcast done while they're driving. The X-Man, Cherry, R1, he's staying there.
Yep, set and forget.
Yep. Sean Darcy, Shrek. I'm going to start calling him Meatloaf because he's lost about 300 of them. My God, he's looking fit. Trained for the first time today in match simulation with no knee strapping and absolutely dominated. So for me, I don't care if he's lost the weight because he used to use his strength to his advantage. I still think the ruck rules advantage him in the way that he plays. The way that he's lost weight and the way that he's training now, it just means he's going to get to more contests and have the ability to stay on ground longer. So, it's a big yes for me, Deadly.
Around the ground, he's going to be so much better. You know, he's going to be. He could even reach the likes of these fit guys like TDK and the Rucks who just do their best work around the ground and not at the actual centre bounce.
Yeah, and we see Sims there. He is a placeholder at the moment. Boyd still hasn't been added to the SuperCoach app.
Hurry up and add Harry Boyd.
Yep. My forwards, as we can see there, nothing really out of the ordinary, mate. So we see the Hornet himself, Jason Horne-Francis, F1, McRae, F2, Bailey Smith, F3, Philippou in the 4, Caleb Daniel 5, and Dan Curtin, who I haven't seen in very many teams. So I'm going to tell you why I've got him in my F6 right now, or later on, when we talk about our forwards. Kako and Elijah Hewitt on my bench. All of these players that I've got here, I am quietly confident that they're all going to play round one, Deadly.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. You know, even the rookies you got there, Kako's basically locked into a half-forward role at Essendon. Dan Curtin's been training at midfield or half-back. Either which way, they want him in the team. And there's going to be a spot for him. And, even Hewitt will probably get a game for West Coast early on, you'd think.
West Coast have been training Elijah Hewitt off half-back and really rated him.
Yeah. They've always rated him. Yeah.
The Horne-Francis, year 3, we often see really good players take big leaps in year 3.
Yeah.
And this year, the 2 big improvers for me in their 3rd year are going to be the Hornet. I see him as being the F1 this year. But Georgie Wardlaw as well. I see a big year for Georgie coming as well.
I am ready. I'm so ready for George Wardlaw. I already love him enough. I just can't wait for him to take that jump.
Yeah. It's just a pity he plays at the Roos. But anyway, we move on. Jack McRae, F2, he's got that midfield role. If he stays there, he'll average comfortably over 100. Bailey Smith, we've seen what he's been like during the pre-season, all the photos coming out, all the pumping up in the media. Whether that's because he's the type of player that needs a bit of a pump up to make himself feel good or whether that's genuine, I'm not sure. But at 389K for someone that can rack up 30-plus touches a game, can play across half-back, can play through the middle, has been known to kick goals before as well, that's a pretty easy pick, even though they've got the early bye, Deadly.
Yeah, he's the most picked player in the team picker for a reason. He's going to play in the guts. He's going to, beat it every CBA. Yeah. And at that price in the forward, available in the forward line, you just have to take him. He's got the pedigree to score high big points. We saw it a couple of years ago before his ACL injury. Yeah, he's a lock.
For sure. Philippou, big breakout coming out for the Poo this year as well.
Yeah.
At F4, starting in the midfield. They had a practice match today and apparently just blew the ears off everyone. Just his speed and silky.
Him and McRae were both top performers apparently. And the one thing that interests me in that practice match, Marcus Windhager played in the B team all day. So
whether that's because they're playing the tagger on the best player or whether Rossi Lyon's favourite son may not be the favourite anymore, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Just keep an eye on it. That's all I'm saying. You can't go into these practice matches saying that's the team because he will get games, Marcus Windhager. Just keep an eye out is all I'll say.
For sure. Caleb Daniel, he was recruited for a reason at North Melbourne. He's at F5. Not going to go too much into him. But the intra-club practice match that they played Friday, when he was in the back line, he took every single kick out and played on almost every time. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't try and
Exciting
outthink the
stuff.
room. Just pick him. He will be a primo by season's end. Dan Curtin, I've got at F6. I want to thank the Cricket Tragedy on Twitter, the bloke that posts a lot of Adelaide Crows material. He's really good with promoting the Adelaide Footy Club, what they're doing with training, writes a bit about how they're going with their practice matches. And the Adelaide Crows are loving what Dan Curtin is bringing across half-back at the moment. So for me and his elite ball use, like you said earlier, he is my F6 at the moment.
Yep.
Kako, he's going to bring forward pressure. He's going to kick goals. Think Nick Watson from last year, but I feel like his scoring potential might be a little bit better, just given that he's a bit bigger.
Yeah, he's electric, Kako. There's that many clips of him released by the Essendon Footy Club already. Just how well he's playing, and he doesn't look out of place in this, team.
And Elijah Hewitt, at F8, been training cross halfback, and from what I've been told by our Perth sources, is almost a lock for round one. Now my flex, as you can see, I've only got 24k left, so I've got to have a primo in there. And who else but we're not fading Gawn this year, mate. I don't like fading Gawn. Maxi Gawn, he's in my flex. As you can see, ladies and gentlemen, I've got 3 primo rucks, and I'm going to tell you why. It might be a little bit of a bold strategy. It might not be. But when you think about players that get tagged, backline players who accumulate ball get tagged.
Yep.
Gun midfielders get tagged. Forwards who can find a lot of the ball get tagged. Forwards who are dangerous around goal have a lockdown back play on them. Who tags Ruckman?
No one. AK, everyone else who scored SuperCoach points besides Rucks. So they have a consistent scoring output week to week.
Yep. So
I don't hate it.
Yep. So for me, I'm not trying to outthink the room at all. For me, I'm just thinking, well, it's the position where people don't get tagged. You get points for hitouts to advantage. You get points for your follow-up work. All 3 that I've got there are good around the ground. They've got good sets of hands. They all follow up their own work. They all tackle. They can all kick goals. I'm just going with 3 primo ruckman, and I don't think, even though I no doubt will make changes to this team before round 1 or round 0.
Yep.
I think my 3 ruck structure I'm fairly comfortable in keeping.
Okay, I'll put this to you because I know you were probably ready for this chat. If it comes out that Mark Pitnett is not playing for Carlton round 1 and Tom De Koning is the sole ruckman, who's getting changed? Because we know he's going to get picked in everyone's team if picked.
Yeah, so I want De Koning, but the fact that 30 points difference per game when Pitnett plays versus when he doesn't play for TDK, it's too much. And when we're talking primos, and if you're spending 530k, 540k?
547, I think he is.
Yep. So when we're talking that amount of money, you want someone that you know is going to go over 100 each week. And with Pitnett in the side, didn't he average like 89 or something like that?
It might have been even less, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't good. I've got the stats for him as a sole ruck. So in the 10 games that he played as the sole ruck, he averaged 123, which would have been good for the 3rd best average all season out of every player, only behind Bond and Cherry. But the thing that, I probably think they're going to lean to the dual ruck to start. But the second the Pitnett's out, because you'd think he has to go out at some point. The Carlton's record last year was with TDK as a sole ruck, 9-1.
9-1
as a sole ruck, and they went 4-9 with dual rucking. It doesn't make sense to me with how good TDK is playing for you to pick Pitnett as well. It's the only thing that worries me is the fact that Charlie Curnow, he's had this off-season knee cleanup or something. They might need TDK to spend at all.
Charlie Curnow with the cleanup. Harry Mackay going down today with a shoulder concern.
Yeah.
Nick Newman with the knee. Sam Walsh with the hamstring. Injury news isn't good out of Carlton. I think you're right. I think they're going to play the both to start with because Charlie Curnow wouldn't have had a full pre-season. Yep. Hopefully Harry Mackay doesn't miss any time, but they're going to need consistency, aren't they?
Absolutely. And even, you've just named 4 players that have been injured this preseason. Alex Chincotta also went for an off-season surgery. He's in doubt for round 1. It's good for Carlton mid-prices and rookies, which is why we have a few of them. We have Jagger Smith, Hollands, Chera, all these guys, because they very good chance they get games to start this season.
Yep,
But
100%. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so that's my team. I'll go through it all as one, and I'll put it see it on the screen there. So Sheasel, Sinclair, Coleman, Travaglia, Bo Allen, James Leake with all Hawley and Reid there in my defence. Bontempelli, Brayshaw, Oliver, Chera, Peatling, Jagger Smith, Ed Allen, Josh Smiley, O'Driscoll, Neil Erasmus, and Hamish Davis, who will be my loop player. And if he ends up playing, I'll find someone else. I want that to be a DPP player, though.
Yep.
Ixchiri or Cherry, Darcy, Sims, who will turn into Boyd. Yep. And that's a big reason why I've got my loop player in my mids at the moment, because if that's Boyd and Boyd plays,
he should play. Yeah,
that's right. That's another money generation for me. You and I are going to do an episode on cash gen and how important that is. So you're not going to want to miss that, ladies and gentlemen. Horn, Francis, McRae, Smith, Philippou, Daniel Curtin, with Kako and Hewitt on my bench, and then Maxi Gawn in the ruck. Tell me, how am I not winning the 50K?
Because you're coming second to me.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to... What's that, sorry?
Well, I think your biggest problem is you still don't have...
Campbell Chesser. Yeah.
Campbell Chesser.
Yeah. Or Ben
in
Keys.
the midfield. Yeah, well, I don't know what you're doing, seriously. Like, don't worry about coming second. You're coming 50,000th. They're going to average 500 this year.
Per game.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do us for this evening. That is Horse's team to start this year. Jump in our Patreon if you want to see any updates to what we do with our sides. The link is below in the description, and it is free to join. If you want to upgrade and go into a paid membership, it is the cost of a cup of coffee per month. You'll see there when you do click below, Pete from Nerds for Life, an ex-sports journo, has actually written a very detailed article on the strength of schedule, buy rounds, the rookies to watch. It's a pretty interesting read, isn't it?
Yeah, seriously impressive work. Pete's been doing it for however long, and he's bloody impressive at what he does. He knows his stuff. So yeah, go sign up and give it a read. It'll be worth your time.
Yep, spot on. And ladies and gentlemen, the next team preview that we're going to give to you is the man who used to work with Dr. Supercoach. He will be coming to us next week, so you're going to want to stay tuned for that. But for now, this has been another episode of the Insight Fantasy Sports Podcast. Thanks, Deadly, and we'll catch these guys soon. Cheerio.
Pleasure.